Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. I'm familiar with the name. I'm familiar with the name.
Joining me now is a frequent guest of the show, former FBI Special Agent, whistleblower as well, Kyle Seraphin.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public, and we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called The Kyle Seraphin Show. Follow him on Twitter. I'm Sebastian Gorka. I'll call you later. We'll talk guns. We'll talk optics.
Perfect, man. God bless you, brother. Thank you for standing up for the truth, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks. Well, so Kyle, thank you so much for joining us. Great chatting with you.
Kyle Seraphin, thank you.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is October. It's the 19th of October. It's Thursday. This feels like this week has just been dragging. Maybe that's just me, but man, yesterday was a long one, and what a weird one as well. We're going to be talking about false equivalency today. It's a logical fallacy, often known as apples to oranges. So we're going to get into that. We're going to say why it applies. If you've been looking on our Rumble channel, you already know that the thumbnail is going to show a couple of false equivalencies that are being made by Democrats left and right. And if you are missing our live chat, if you are not here with us at 0930 Eastern Time, 8:30 in Texas, America, what you are missing in the chat, even before the show rolls, is solutions to our border crisis. Rose Lopez sitting in there, letting me know that she's already learned how we're going to solve this problem. I'm eyeballing it off to the side here. Hippos, ladies and gentlemen, hippos in the Rio Grande. They're fast. They're man-eaters. They're super dangerous. And somebody has counter-proposed sharks with laser beams. I think hippos is probably more probable. Hippos in the Rio Grande would change the game. Let's just say it right there. We're solving problems here. We're dealing with national security, and we're going to be talking about logical fallacies on the Kyle Seraphin Show. So, folks, stay tuned. We've got a couple things. Also, kind of a bombshell article dropped yesterday. I'm going to put some information in your mind that you have not heard probably anywhere else if you're not following some of the more obscure news sources that I follow. So, stick around for the whole thing. I think you guys are going to really like this. Let's start first with a big thank you to those who are bringing the show to you. My friends over at Patriot Coolers. I reached out to Marcus, who's their business manager, and I told him, look, I got to put an order in. I need one of the large coolers. I'm sick of running around. I've had a Yeti for years that I got as a wedding gift. So if you use promo code Kyle, you can get 10% off. You can get yours shipped free as well. I'm getting one of their bigger coolers in tan because that's my kind of jam. They also make them in gray and aqua. I don't know who's doing aqua, but maybe you're like you're into Tiffany's blue. It's kind of a Tiffany's blue color. Tan is my jam though. And I'm going to actually show you guys some video when it arrives. We'll unbox it. We'll throw it up here on the channel, let you guys take a look at it. And we can compare it side by side to my Yeti, which is the more expensive of the two. And it was a gift. And you know what? It actually holds less. I think we may even do a loading video for that. So look forward to that. Go to Patriot Coolers with an S on the end, patriotcoolers.com, patriotcoolers.com. Use promo code Kyle, K-Y-L-E. You can see they've got great tumblers. I've got their monster jug, which we've been carrying around all summer. Now I might be carrying coffee and fueling the Kyle Seraphin Show rage, which we use to rage tweet at you guys all day long, keeping you informed on social media at Kyle Seraphin. So check them out. Again, patriotcoolers.com. Promo code Kyle. Ryan, are you ready to launch into this stuff? I got a bunch of videos today, folks. We're going to see exactly how drunk and confused the old man that is running our country is, and it is pretty terrifying. He's got his hands on the lever of power. He's got the nuclear codes, but he doesn't know it. he's also got a disaster in his depends, I think, because some of this stuff is pretty awful. No, I'm just seeing in the chat, they do not have olive drab colored, although I'm going to try to advocate. Patriot Coolers does need olive drab. That is my color. OD green is really my jam. All right, let's break off with topic number one here. Let's just break this right up. This is the awfulness that we are dealing with in our country, and then we'll get into the false equivalency. Number one, this is being reported over by the Post Millennial. This is something that we saw yesterday, kind of breakout, and finally we got sentencing on a guy named Douglas Mackey. If you guys have been following this show, you know the atrocious story of Twitter user Douglas Mackey, who was going by Real Ricky Vaughn being the character from Major League, played by Charlie Sheen. It was a joke account. It was always what they would call in safety alert if you're sitting at work, so you got to mute this a little bit, but he's what you would call a shit poster, and he was out throwing up memes all over social media. At one point, one of the more influential meme generators in the 2016 election. Douglas Mackey just got 7 months in prison for sending a meme, essentially for texting the internet. This is pretty incredible stuff. Meme maker Douglas Mackey was sentenced in the Eastern District of New York on criminal charges on Wednesday after a March conviction for conspiracy against rights. These things are civil rights laws that are basically set up during the Civil War era. I'm sorry, the post-Civil War era and the Civil Rights era, where they were basically trying to say that people who were depriving Black people of their abilities to engage in civil liberties in this country in a fair way, this is what these laws were set up to do. And you've got Douglas Mackey, who was apparently in a conspiracy against rights that deprive no one of their rights for free speech. DOJ didn't think it was funny. So this is pretty gross. They sentenced him to 7 months in prison. This is a First Step Act sort of case. So hopefully, First Step Act means basically you should only serve 50% of your sentence if you're a first-time offender. Hopefully, this guy only ends up with the 3 months of there. But even that is atrocious. Imagine doing 3 months in prison, in federal prison, because you sent memes. All of us have probably sent them. Pretty awful stuff. The case, again, heard in the Eastern District of New York. The districts of New York are getting more and more soft. It was always the Southern District of New York that was a soft seat for government. Now the Eastern District as well has been getting some of these charges, and it's pretty incredible. Now, the real claim is that he encouraged people to vote for Hillary Clinton via text message. Now, if you actually believe that you can text your vote to a number, and there's probably a number of people on the political left and the political right that actually think that's reasonable. Those of you that think that is the case, I don't want you voting anyway. I think that's a conspiracy to actually help our elections. That would be much better if the people that think they can actually text their vote in, and T-Mobile is going to record their ballot. That would be a good people to remove from our voting pool. But that's not what's going on. He sent that out there. There was no evidence that anybody actually was deprived of rights. Nobody went out there and said, oh, I lost my vote because I texted it and it didn't work. So a victimless crime, as we are seeing more and more in the state of New York, both in the federal and on the state level. They love victimless crimes. Donald Trump, of course, is defending against one of those as well. The victimless crime of supposedly devaluing or overvaluing his properties and taking loans against them, which he didn't have any problems with. Pretty incredible stuff. But sadly, this man is going to be going to jail for it. I think this is, like I said, you've got a federal judge that is dealing with Trump's case saying that you can't use the word thug or Department of Injustice simply because he's been accused of something. They are really attacking the First Amendment, and this is a massive attack on the First Amendment. When you attack the First Amendment, the next thing that comes up is they come after the second. So I showed you the dominoes the other day. If you have not seen that video, I recommend you guys go check out the dominoes. They're all falling, unfortunately, in a big, big way. But the real story of the day yesterday, and the stuff that's been kind of ruminating in most of our minds, is the so-called insurrection. The insurrection of October the 18th. Now, this was, if you were in a cave all day yesterday and you were just now stepping into the light like a groundhog, you're looking out, you're looking for your shadow, and what do you see? There were hundreds of people, maybe thousands outside, that went into the Cannon Building, which is part of the U.S. Capitol complex, and they were protesting loudly. They were sitting, they were cheering, they were banging on drums, they were making a ruckus. We've got some videos of that, which we're going to show you. And also, the old man that is occupying the White House right now decided to jump on a multi-hour flight to Israel. No further explanation for why that was the case. And then he decided to talk to people, which is always a bad choice by his press team. And the things he said are going to shock you. Even though he spent 18 hours on a plane going over there and eventually sitting down and talking in Israel in front of a big stage, he flew back to Ramstein Air Force Base and then started talking about mass shootings because he forgot where he was. His feeble old brain grabbed the wrong script. All right. So that's pretty scary. We're going to show you a bunch of these videos. Let's talk what is a false equivalency. So it's a logical fallacy. This is why this is important. Everybody was talking about insurrection yesterday. I was one of them as well. I see the ugliness of the fact that the justice system has gone after our friends in January 6th. Many of them were nonviolent people who stayed within the ropes, who followed the rules, other than the fact that they just were let in the door. They had no idea what was happening. And there were some people that were involved in violence. And we think at this show, the people that were involved in violence, if you were punching a cop, if you were getting physically violent, then you should, in fact, do some jail time or community service or probation or whatever is normal in the system. And I assure you, having arrested felons with violent histories who had guns and had drugs in their, on their person, in their house for search warrants that were part of a federal search, a federal operation, 19 plus houses at a time. When you arrest these people and they don't do any time and those charges are dropped in DC, I can tell you that trespassing charges should have all been dropped. And even some of the assault charges probably wouldn't have actually gone anywhere, except for the political motivation. But the problem is that we watch these complete lunatics on the political left, and they were led by Nancy Pelosi, and many others went out and did this. They were crying about how the day January 6, 2021 will forever live in infamy, right? In the same way they talked about Pearl Harbor and the way that we heard George Bush talk in my sophomore year of college after the planes hit the two towers, and he claimed that freedom itself had been attacked. Those were grave days with massive losses of life, and they were kinetic strikes on the U.S. homeland, which Hawaii is still part of the homeland. Even if the Biden administration doesn't want to give them any money for what happened in Maui, it is part of our homeland. When you have those happen, and then they've equated it with a bunch of people getting into a street fight, essentially, with an unarmed police force that wasn't prepared, and the only people who died were, in fact, protesters. The law enforcement was able to get away with, basically scratches and injuries, and some people were bruised up, but even some of those injuries were grossly exaggerated. You have a false equivalency. And what that is it's when you take, because there were some things in common between the two. There was some violence. It happened in America, and there were government forces at play. You say that they are the same thing. But there's a massive difference, obviously, between a foreign military strike or an asymmetric threat by terrorism. It's very different than people who get out of control and have a riot, much like we saw in 2017 at Trump's inauguration, which was pretty rowdy as well, by the way. It just was smaller forces because it wasn't in the U.S. Capitol and it wasn't funneled in. And they actually had the right number of people to respond to it, which is a big piece of it. When you have those things equated, that's a false equivalency. And often referred to as apples to oranges. That's the layman's version of it. But we are constantly seeing that. And of course, we saw the same thing called out yesterday. A false equivalency, saying that yesterday was, in fact, an insurrection. Now, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And if you're going to prosecute on one side of the aisle, you should prosecute on the other. Merrick Garland has gone on 60 Minutes. We showed you the interview, crying with his grovelly little weak man voice, talking to Scott Pelley at a very scripted and probably multiple filming attempts to get it out cleanly. But what did he say? That there are no systems of justice that are two-tiered in this country. That we don't have one set of rules for our enemies and one set of rules for our friends. We don't do things differently at the Justice Department. If that is the case, and based on what we've seen happen in the January 6th cases, many of which were nonviolent, many of which people were not accused of anything more than what those who were sitting on the floor yesterday in the Cannon building are guilty of, then we should see some kinetic SWAT team style raids, knocking down doors, and they should have rounded them all up at the Capitol. That's what we're led to believe. Now, I tweeted out, and many of you guys have made the phone call. You know for a fact that the Washington field office, we know for a fact, has at least 2 or 3 squads. That's dozens of agents and intelligence analysts and SOS support capabilities and 3 supervisors who are all involved in investigating the Capitol breach, the Capitol incursion, the Capitol riot, whatever you want to call it. They call it multiple things in all their affidavits. This is an ongoing case. There are 3 squads that are working out of the Gallery Place building that the FBI has an offsite on near the Washington field office in Chinatown in Washington, D.C. right now. That's what they do for a living. Multiple millions of dollars worth of salaries, simply going after people that did minimal or nonviolence and no property damage. Simply, they were obstructing an official proceeding, or they were sitting on the floor, or they were marching around in a place where they were not allowed to march around. Illegal parading. Somebody asked me in it that I got a fact check while I was on Twitter yesterday, and somebody asked me, is that even a real charge? Yes, it is. And we're going to cover what that real charge is. So let's do some of those things. Let's pull up topic number 6, if you would, and then we'll get into the Biden stuff, because the Biden stuff will nauseate you and motivate your day. Let's do topic number 6. This is one of the actual charges that was charged in almost all of the Capitol riot cases. 18 U.S.C. 1752, 18 U.S.C. 1752, a restricted building or grounds. Part A. Part A1 and Part A2. These are the things that you see charged in a lot of them. Whoever knowingly enters and remains in a restricted building or grounds without lawful authority to do so. The minute that they tell you that you're not allowed to be there, you're not allowed to be there. So it's no longer a place where you have a lawful authority. So once you decide that you're going to sit down, as apparently the grounds, we have a video to show it, but once you sit down, you are now outside of the lawful authority to do so. That is considered a protest according to the way that the policies are written there, and that is against federal law. And number 2, section 2, knowingly and with intent to impede or disrupt the orderly conduct of government business. It doesn't say what that government business is. Literally, MTG, who has videos that we're going to show you, trying to get to where she's going as a congressperson that works in that building. That is disruption of orderly conduct of government business or official functions, which she is doing on that day. Engages in disorderly or disruptive conduct. You're going to see how disruptive it is, and you guys can make up your mind. Within such proximity or any restricted buildings or grounds when or so that such conduct, in fact, impedes, disrupts the orderly conduct of business or official functions. These are the charges. Now, I'm going to have you pull it up real quick, Ryan. This is actually a picture from one of the indictments, topic number 8. If you'll throw that on the screen for me. Folks, you can see this is the way that DOJ actually does it. This is from one of the indictments. Civil disorder was charged. That's 18 U.S.C. 231. There's these 1512 charges, which we'll talk about in a second. The 1752s, which we just read, multiple versions of that. There are all several things. If you engage in physical violence, it's even another charge. So there are multiple sections they can charge you on, and they do. All right. And then 40 U.S.C. 5104, which we're going to talk about right now. The 5104 is either engaging in an act of physical violence or, as I mentioned on Twitter and was fact-checked, apparently, they found out, oh, he is in fact right. Parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building is a federal offense. So let's pull that one up right now, topic number 7, and then let's start showing you some videos of this stuff. I want you to have the law in your head, and then you can make your own decision. So there it is. All right. The actual charges, flip it back over because we're gonna pull the exact piece. Go back to the topic number 8, if you would. From the indictments, these are January 6 indictments. What do they say at the bottom here? Section E2G. Let's look at section E2G. It simply says, parading, demoing, or picketing in any of the Capitol buildings. An individual or group of individuals may not willfully and knowingly parade, picket, or demonstrate in any of the Capitol buildings. That's the charge. That's it. There's no intent, there's no violence, there's no requirement for it to be. That is considered an unlawful activity on the Capitol grounds. So now that you know that, let's show you some videos of what happened that day, yesterday. And let's first off start with a little bit of encouraging news, which is that they actually did make some arrests on site. Video number 1, this comes from Twitter. This guy is obviously saying, owie, owie. I'm sure he is definitely arresting. If you've ever tried to put somebody into cuffs and you see this sort of thing, this is a passive resisting technique. They will basically flex up their body and try to make it really hard to put the cuffs on. You can see that. Let's go to video number 1. You'll see this guy getting taken down, and then you'll hear some of the chanting. Now, the punishment for violation of Section A, okay, the punishment for subsection A is imprisonment of not more than 10 years under 18 U.S.C. 1752. That's remaining or obstructing. So are we going to see 10-year charges dished out? Are we going to see the Justice Department go out there and hold felonies of 10 years out there? I don't think so. But it's worth noting That is the consequence that has befallen many people that are dealing with this from January 6th. All I'm saying is it's pretty straightforward that you're not allowed to parade and you're not allowed to disrupt government business. Those people are quite clearly disrupting the government business. Just the volume of what they're doing. You'll remember that they actually shut down a children's choir that was singing the national anthem not too long ago. Okay. This is the sort of standard. When you have one standard that is fighting, and they are saying that these are not the same thing, they clearly are. People have disrupted government business. How they did it, whether they intended to be violent, sort of irrelevant, doesn't make a difference. I want to play video number 2. We're going to show you some more footage of this. We're also going to get this commentary. Make sure we get this started at about a minute and 20 in, Ryan. This commentary, this guy says, I see this all the time, but once you sit down, even as a journalist, they will remove you. And if you decide to stay sitting, they will charge you for protesting because you're not allowed to be static. You can walk around, you can say your piece, but the minute you start getting unruly like that and you obstruct government business, you're done. Let's roll that one too.
With a lot of cameras, with a lot of media here. So this group clearly, garnering the attention that they wanted and making their point. I'll just let you listen in here for a second.
Now, what you're seeing on the screen, if you're not watching on Rumble, there's a couple of people that have yarmulkes on, and they're all wearing face masks, which is also really interesting. These are obviously very proud of themselves. But they're wearing yarmulkes, they're wearing prayer shawls, like some Jewish people may, and they're saying Jews for ceasefires. They all have the same shirt, so this is obviously coordinated. This would also fall, I would say, anybody who made those shirts.
The reason you're hearing cheering is because people are starting to be arrested. Scott, let's pan over here to the right, so you guys can see now. There are some people who are being arrested. Capitol Police are coming in and starting to remove people from the second level here. This is the Cannon House Office building.
Okay, now you have those people are resisting. You see people on the screen right now that are in fact resisting. They're holding onto their banners when they should be theoretically complying. This was supposedly a planned operation so that they could have some arrests happen and they could make a statement, but those people obviously do not actually want to go to jail. Now look at the big thing. They're all wearing the same shirt. To me, that's a conspiracy, is it not? Is that not how they charge conspiracy? Everybody is prepared to do one thing. They all had these pre-printed. This shows forethought, right? They decided to come in. So anybody that made the shirts, that was part of it. Anybody that ordered the shirts, that wasn't there. All of these things should theoretically be conspiracy, except that in the United States, we shouldn't be doing any of this stuff. The real answer is that January 6th should have resulted in 0 charges for most people. Maybe a warning, maybe a slap on the wrist, maybe arrested on the day of and released later on, like they do with so many other things that happen in Washington, D.C. But instead, they've drawn a false equivalence between things like 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. And in doing so, they've set the standard that is how this thing should be treated, as an insurrection, as a attempt to overthrow democracy. And they just can't help it by using this word democracy when in fact they mean our republic. I've actually got a really gross video of Nancy Pelosi. Let's just play video number 7. We're going to skip ahead and play this one. I just want you guys to know the words matter. And this is what this woman took away from that day. It wasn't the fact that there were hundreds of people that were blocking business in the Cannon building. It's really that Jim Jordan is trying to become speaker. And you know my position. If you've watched the show, no one for speaker, hashtag no one for speaker. We're still winning, by the way. We're going to talk about it. It's being covered by Catholic Vote, so I'll just let you guys go to the loop. But honestly, no one for speaker. But this was the real threat, was that Jim Jordan is trying to become the Speaker of the House. Go ahead and run that video too. Number 7.
When we've had a speaker's race on our side or their side, we've always respected each other's judgment. But today and yesterday, that was an assault on our democracy, as Jim Jordan assaulted our democracy on January 6th.
Sorry, play that one more time. I just have to hear it twice.
When we've had a speaker's race on our side or their side, we've always respected each other's judgment. But today and yesterday, that was an assault on our democracy.
It's an assault on our democracy.
Facts.
Their truth is that it was assault on democracy, and Jim Jordan assaulted democracy apparently on January 6th. In the intelligence community, we would follow that statement with that direct quote with this little parenthetical thing that would say the letters NFI for no further information. It's like, Ryan Matta said that his car is actually made of bananas and it's powered by sunlight. NFI. No further information. It means I have no idea what they're talking about, and I can't validate any of it. Nancy Pelosi just gave you a no further information NFI statement. Apparently, Jim Jordan is involved in something that we don't understand. We're going to play a bunch more of this stuff. We're going to have some more coming out, including Rashida Tlaib crying, which is my favorite because that woman is a pro-terrorist sympathizer and an anti-Semite, but you know, she's also really, really sad. So let's throw another sponsor up real quick. Guys, some of you guys have been buying them. If you are interested in it, you can do so at mypillow.com/Kyle. A lot of you guys love the MyPillow products. Like I said, I keep talking to people in my life that have them, whether they're carrying the slippers, whether they're buying the towels, or my parents sleep on their sheets. So if you're into it, by all means, go there and use my promo code instead of anybody else's. If you're not into it, we're not asking you to buy something that you don't need. There's a lot of folks that love the Mike Lindell products, and Mike Lindell seems like a swell guy. We've had some pretty funny conversations listening to him. So mypillow.com/Kyle. My promo code is always going to be the same if I can help it. Promo code Kyle. You get all kinds of wild discounts. And a guy named Grantee, who's watches us on Twitter, actually showed me his cart, and I think he ordered like $2,300 worth of stuff, threw the promo code in and got a 50% discount, and it ended up being $1,100, which is wild that you guys are spending $1,100 at the MyPillow store. Apparently people really like those sheets. As far as I know, there are no tinfoil hats available there, but we will work on the lamb's wool. We'll talk to Mike and see if he wants to put some lamb's wool, foil-lined, silver-capable helmet hats that you can wear underneath your Mitch helmet so they can't get the 5G radiation into your head. Check out mypillow.com/Kyle if you guys want to use this thing. Super nice. They've already cut me a check, so they're really nice people. They send us money. They support our show, and you guys are doing it by going through there. We get a decent percentage as a commission for sending you there. So if you're going to buy it anyway, use our code, and we do appreciate it. All right, let's keep marching forward because nothing better than members of Congress emotionally appealing and crying about things like supporting terrorists. Big fan of this. You know that I don't really want to get in the side. I don't really care what America's business is, but if your job is to represent constituents that are Americans in the United States House, you're one of 435 people whose vote actually gets counted when it comes to legislation. I do not want to see you advocating on behalf of a foreign terrorist cell. In the same way, I don't want to see Brian Mast, the representative from Florida, wearing an IDF uniform. I think it's political theater and it's disgusting, and your allegiances are very suspect at that point. In fact, it borders on the fact that you are a violation of your oath because your allegiance needs to be the United States and not to Hamas, which is disgusting, and certainly not to Israel, and wearing a military uniform for a foreign power. Let's show this woman crying in video number 3. You guys can check this sucker out. I'm sure you'll like it.
Continue to watch people think it's okay to bomb a hospital where children... You know what's so hard sometimes is watching those videos and the people telling the kids don't cry. And like, let them cry. And they're shaking, and some of you know this, they keep telling them not to cry in Arabic. They can cry, I can cry, we all can cry. If we're not crying, something is wrong. And so I'm telling you right now, President Biden, not all America's with you on this one. And you need to wake up and understand that. We are literally watching people commit genocide and killing a vast majority just like this, and we still stand by and say nothing. We will remember this, but all of you need to know, I swear to God, Wahiyat Allah, you are on the right side of history. You're doing everything possible to save lives. What is wrong with that? Stop it with trying to politicize this.
Don't politicize it as she politicizes it. Comment of the day coming from Rumble Rick. I need more cowbell. Some of you guys heard the cowbell in the background. That's about the only redeeming quality listening to that ridiculous thing. She's making it up. She's got her nostrils flared. Her eyes are red. Her face is very upset. She is acting at the top level of her capabilities. That is nonsense. She's saying that people are not with President Biden. What is she talking about? President Biden wants to give them more money. He wants to give terrorists more money. Let's play video clip number 8. He's just trying to help them out. He's a humanitarian. You know, he's 1,000 years old. And he remembers back when it was still just a non-mechanized society before there was a state of Israel. I think Joe Biden was hanging out there in Palestine as the goat herders ran around. Let's go ahead and play this. Video number 8. What is he going to do for Gaza?
Today, I'm also announcing $100 million in new U.S. funding for humanitarian assistance in both Gaza and the West Bank. This money will support more than 1 million displaced and conflict-affected Palestinians, including emergency needs in Gaza.
How does money work, y'all? Do you know what that is? The concept of money being fungible? Have you heard that before? The word fungible means that it can be basically applied in any way. Think about it. If I gave you $100 for your birthday, because I'm writing you checks because I'm your uncle. If I send you $100 for your birthday, now you could use it to pay bills, which was not my intention, or you could go buy yourself a Sega Dreamcast or whatever it is that people buy these days. I don't know. My last video games probably. Hey man, my video games go
the
back.
1990s, Kyle. The 1990s.
Yeah, that's the last time I bought a video game system. I'm a grown up. I knew you would like that, Ryan. Look, you can use it for anything you like. Actually, my dad told me I couldn't buy something. What was it? It was a Game Gear, a Sega Game Gear. I really wanted to buy one. He told me it was a bad investment. That was the last time I bought a game system. I didn't buy the Game Gear. Look, you can use it for any number of things because $100 can be used here and it can be filled back into your bank account and spent there. If you have money in your account, you can use it for any number of things, and that money is not specific. Even if you quote unquote earmark a certain amount of it, the rest of the money that comes in backfills against it. So you can move things around. It's fungible. It's the same reason why we don't think giving money to Planned Parenthood for whatever it does that Planned Parenthood, women's health that we think is not atrocious, it still can be used to fund abortion because it's fungible. Now, in the case of Biden giving $100 million, he's going to give $100 million to where? Gaza. Okay, fine. Who runs Gaza? Hamas. Hamas is the elected representative of the people. And as we showed you the other day, the people who run Hamas are billionaires that live in Qatar and all over. They've basically taken on this diaspora, this expat status, and they take all the money out of there and they put all of it into weapons and munitions. There's a reason why Gaza is a third world shithole, and there's no other way to say it. Like, President Trump is correct in his analysis of some of these places. It is not a place you want to go hang out. Why is that? They've got all this money in foreign aid. They have the world's attention. It's the poor me time. They've got hundreds of people demonstrating in the U.S. Capitol, and they put their money into rockets and they hide them in places that they ought not to. They hide them in churches and mosques. They hide them in hospitals and schools. This is long-standing stuff that has been very well documented by sources that you don't have to be upset about. So I don't want to give money to Hamas, but I don't want to give money to Israel either, to be fair. We've given enough money to Israel. They've got it. They got lazy. They didn't learn the lessons of Demolition Man, and they went totally digital when they should have been analog, when they should have been doing the same things that they've always done, which is relied on human intelligence and bricks and sticks. And so, yeah, they got caught off guard. That sucks. That's awful. I'm really sorry that happened. And I'm really sad to see people who are young and weak get attacked. But that's how people remain hard and strong, that they know that there's a physical threat out there. They got a really rude awakening. We've had those here in the United States. No doubt about it. Okay. Let's keep our money out of the conflict. That's not what we're doing, by the way. I'm going to show you some evidence that it's actually going to get a lot worse there. But that's what should be happening. We shouldn't be putting our money in that space. It doesn't need to be there. So the fun thing is that we had, like I said, Biden fly out there. I'm going to show you guys a video right here. I'm going to tell you why this video is so scary to me. Video number 6, this is his sort of response to it. He went out to Israel, and this is what he said. He was going to try to justify what happened. Play video number 6. We're going to respond to it in a second here.
How about the hospital, sir? People all over the region are upset about the hospital and don't necessarily believe you or the Israelis that they didn't have anything to do with it. Do you have a message to the people in the streets right now?
Well, I can understand why in this circumstance they wouldn't believe. I can understand that. But I would not, you notice I don't say things like that unless I have faith in the source from which I've gotten them. Our Defense Department says it's highly unlikely that it was Israelis, but if it had a different footprint, and they've intercepted some anyway. So that's why, if you notice, I didn't say it first. I wanted to make sure that I knew. And look, and I'm not suggesting that Hamas deliberately did it either. It's that old thing, got to learn how to shoot straight.
Yeah, you got to learn how to shoot straight. He's very confused right now because he's been on the road for a little while and he's 1,000 years old. Joe Biden just about revealed sources and methods right there in that. He stopped himself short of explaining the collection mechanisms that DOD had, and he realized that he was in the middle of saying something he shouldn't say. Now, half the time he stops himself short because he knows he's just rambling and he doesn't know what he's saying anymore. In this case, he almost explained to them something that they would probably want not discussed: the sources and methods of gathering intelligence, whether it's human sourcing, whether it's a technical collection capability. But the guy is not safe for national security simply because of stuff like this. And then on that same interview, and some of you are commenting on like what's going on in the background, you see Tony Blinken like sticking his head around the corner and he's like eyeballing like, do I want to be part of this? No, like that guy's crazy. He's saying dumb things. You've got John Kirby, his spokesperson, that's sitting down there and trying to hide underneath him. It's all kind of gross to watch. It's also really dangerous for America. And I don't know that he's making the decisions. We all kind of suspect somebody else is. Let's say that somebody else is not. Let's say he actually is making those decisions in his sober moments, which are not very capable anyway. They're scary as hell to watch from the outside. I want to play video number 10. This guy just finished flying to the Middle East where there's an armed conflict going, where we have multiple sets of aircraft carrier groups going in and now a command and control module getting sent out, which we're going to talk about in a second. And he decides to give you a little taste of his thoughts on mass shootings, gun violence. He doesn't even know what he's talking about anymore. Play video number 10 for me, if you would, Ryan. This stuff is bizarre to watch. It starts about 18 seconds in.
I spent an hour and a half about 17 or 18 before, and I don't know how to say this. Virtually every mass shooting, every circumstance where a large number of people have been victimized and lost, I spoke with. I learned a long time ago, which you've all learned in your lives as well. When someone's going through something that is beyond their comprehension, that they ever thought they'd have to go through, if they see someone who they think understands or maybe been through something, not the same, but similar, it gives them some sense of hope. And I always get criticized sometimes by my staff because when I go to these events, I stay for 3 and 4 hours and answer all their questions. But it matters. It matters a lot.
Yeah.
And look,
matters.
I'm talking, some of you have gone through a hell of a lot more than I've gone through, and a lot more than other people have gone through. And you understand. So it's just people are looking for just something to grab. Something that gives them some sense of hope.
You can see right there. You want to cut the audio on this, or you can cut the video too, Ryan. What we're seeing right there.
It's it's worth doing. It's done for.
He's literally grasping for straws to try to figure out what in my canned thought process can I talk about, and he's equated violence in his febile, senile mind. Its violence is now getting equated with mass shootings because that's what he talks about sometimes. So he's literally just gone off the rails and doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't understand the context of the question. He probably doesn't even respond. He doesn't even know what he was answering. He's just a confused guy who's been on the road for a long time. And you can be sympathetic to that because, anyone who's ever done a long plane flight, you've flown over to Europe, you've flown over to the Middle East, you flew to Australia, it's exhausting. It's too much for this man. It's far too much for him. But who's the number two? Who's the second in charge that we want to turn this thing over to? Like all the impeachment ideas about this guy being a joke, it scares the hell out of me because number two, let's just play this because this came from yesterday. Video number 4, backup plan equals Kamala. I'm not sure I feel good about this one either. She's equally dumb.
So let us today celebrate America's diversity and our collective commitment to inclusion and the importance of equity. Yes, I just did do DEI.
As he did DEI, did you hear her? She's like a toddler. Honestly, my 2-year-old came downstairs this morning and I put on some shorts and some undies for him, and he's got a green shirt, and he walked down the stairs, and my wife was looking at him, and she said, are those pink shorts? And he goes, no, I have a green shirt, yellow shorts. And we're like, that's awesome, man. Good job. That's how Kamala treats herself. Nobody else made her do that. Nobody else made her give herself a pat on the back. She literally patted herself on the back for working the words diversity, equity, and inclusion into a crappy speech that somebody else wrote, put it on a piece of paper, and she delivered the lines, and she's proud of herself. It's absolutely nauseating. It's so pathetic, and the bar is so low. I mean, this is what a diversity hire looks like. She's hired for her skin color, not her competence, and it continues to make most of us disgusted. I know all of you guys that are in the chat keep asking me like what you do wrong and why I have to show you Kamala or why I show you Rashida Tlaib. We got to know what these people are saying. We got to know what's out there. This is the people that are getting elected. I mean, say what you want about Nancy Pelosi. She may be a drunk old lady, but at least she's like committed to her messaging. Stop showing the cackles. Oh my God. So you got to, if you're not watching on a Rumble channel, you've just missed Ryan torturing people with a nonstop cackling reel of Kamala Harris being proud of herself, patting herself on the back. Pretty gross, pretty weird. It saddens me. Let's do one more video. I actually wanted to, before we miss this one, Ben Berkwan, who's been doing great stuff to him at the border. We're going to tell you why there's a connection between the border and what's going on with the pro-Hamas stuff. That may actually surprise you. I'm going to hold that for the last thing. Let's do video number 12 before we run away from it. Then I'll go and say thanks to another sponsor. And then we're going to get into our last little sort of bombshell pieces here that I think if you didn't read it on Daily Wire yesterday, you're going to be very surprised here. Let's do video 12.
They're chanting, they're banging their drum, they're saying, ceasefire now. But can we get a cease Hamas fire now? Cease terrorism fire now. Can we get a cease Hamas fire? What's that? It's called self-defense. Oh, that's what it's called? Killing women and children? You're outside, it's public. You don't have to consent. That's the beauty of America. Anybody, can we say cease terrorism? Say that again? Okay, there we go. So we can't, nobody says cease Hamas, cease terrorism. They just said cease these nuts. I don't think she has nuts. This is the intelligence of the argument.
Fuck pro-Israel people. Please Palestine now. There are no Hamas airstrikes. There are no Hamas missiles. There are no Hamas missiles. Israel is killing innocent women and children. Babies are getting their heads blown off. You want me to show? You want me to show you? Would you like me to show you the video?
So you're telling me.
Would you like me to show you the video?
I don't want to see your propaganda. I don't want to see your propaganda. If you
That's good right there.
Hamas terrorists, there's nothing you can show me.
If you're not following Ben Berkwan, he works for Real America's Voice. Seems like a really good dude. I know he's been doing some great border reporting. There is actually a connection, and we talked to George Hill the other day discussing how we're not going to see a bunch of guys with lawnmowers strapped on their back. I don't know why I keep calling that, but that's what the parasail looks like to me. You know, they're not going to parasail in from Mexico, but there is a big connection there. So we're going to show you part number one. The United States government has no problem hiring former PLO officials into the asylum vetting process. What topic is that one that we had up there? Let's do topic number 9. Let's bring that up. Topic number 9. This was Luke Rosiak over at Daily Wire doing an outstanding job of bringing this story to light. And I think this is like absolutely shell-shocked a lot of you when you reel it. This is a woman who works for the United States government under DHS. She lives in Washington, D.C. apparently. On her LinkedIn, he's got some good pictures. She is a 100% pro-Palestine type. And she said, F Israel, the government and its military, are you ready for your downfall? This is a woman that works for the Homeland Security Department. She works in as a security officer, and she is actually allowed to vet asylum claims. Now, she used to be a spokesperson for the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, which is the former governmental organization that ran Gaza. And now she is in the United States working. She's been in a couple of different positions. We'll scroll through and see some of them. But essentially it just said that they hired her in a role that allows her to vet. She's a public affairs officer previously with the Palestinian delegation that was expelled from the U.S. And now she's allowed to vet asylum claims, saying she's applying immigration laws and regulations to asylum applications. Do you guys feel really good about someone that is clearly aligned with multiple terrorist organizations getting a chance to work inside the U.S. government and be a vetting person? We've had a whistleblower named Aaron Stevenson on our show. He used to work for the same organization. She's an adjudication officer for USCIS, that's Citizenship and Immigration Services. Now, here's the really wild part. If you listen to our interview that goes back months ago now, I think it was called Who We Let In, and he's been on multiple shows with us. But when Aaron Stevenson talked about it, the numbers are pretty compelling. Her job is AO, Adjudication Officer. And the adjudication officers apparently approve about 80% of the asylum claims. But then those have to go in front of what's called an AJ, an adjudicative judge or an administrative judge. And the administrative judges actually deny 80%. They only approve 20% of the asylum claims. So you have this massive imbalance between the people that are in sort of the bureaucratic process, the AOs, like this woman, and the judges who are actually looking at what the law says, where they actually deny the majority of them. And what's going on right now in DHS, according to Aaron, and I have no reason to doubt otherwise, there have been policy procedures pushed forward. We've had the administrative state basically try to use the Chevron doctrine and move forward and pass these laws that are not laws. They're policy that act as law. And they are trying to remove the administrative judges from the process and allow people like this woman, the adjudicative officers, they're trying to make them the end-all authority to clear it up so they can quickly move more and more people through. This woman goes by the name Falestine Mi Amor on social media, where she has a ton of anti-Jewish pieces. It doesn't matter whether you support Israel or whether you support, what's going on in Palestine. You don't have to. You just can't declare this stuff. And I guarantee you, if there was an actual movement and investigation of this woman's security clearance and her job in a place of public trust, you would find out that she is posting these things when she's quote unquote on duty, which is a violation of the Hatch Act. There's almost no chance that's not the case. We all get training on it as a federal employee. You all learn that you cannot do this kind of stuff. And so she actually has a video that she posts when she wakes up. She says, Israeli-American privilege is disgusting. When the Israelis acknowledge that the government and military are solely responsible for the attack, this is the recent attack that happened by Hamas, period, I hold every Israeli accountable for their government's actions if they do not speak out against Israel. You think that she's going to be able to do an unbiased look at whether or not people who are in Israel right now that may end up in a refugee status, or people that are living in Gaza that are Israelis, or people that are Christians that want to come over here and don't necessarily agree with Hamas? Do you think she's going to be able to look at their stuff and give them a reasonable and a fair, objective look? Evaluate their package the way we'd expect them to without bias? No. And she has all kinds of other anti-Israeli bias in here. I highly recommend you guys check this thing out. Apparently, Luke Rosiak gave her a phone call, called up and asked her whether or not she was still an employee and whether she would talk about her PLO time. And she said, that's none of your effing business. Mind your business before I call the police. If I were you, I'd respectfully hang up the phone right now. Awesome. Awesome stuff. Awesome to learn that these are the kind of vetting things. Just remember, that lady probably has a security clearance that's untouched, but guys like Steve Friend, Garrett O'Boyle, and myself had ours removed specifically because we are not running with the government narrative. And we brought some information to Congress, not even to you. Our whistleblowing activity wasn't bringing it to the American people, just so you know. It was bringing it to Congress in accordance with federal law. This lady is actually almost undoubtedly breaking the terms of her employment and the public trust that she's supposed to hold. But luckily, we've got people that are pro-terrorists that are working for the United States government. It doesn't matter whether they're elected officials like Rashida Tlaib, this lady working at DHS. I'm sure there are plenty of others. The sympathies are wide and deep, and that's why we're in such a problem. And that's why you've got guys like, Joe Biden giving $100 million to a group that just did a sneak attack within, theoretically, the borders of their own country. Like they're all part of Israel, whether or not they have, special status or they have problems within Israel. They may be sanctioned off, but they are still like within the territorial grounds. It's disputed, but it's not its own country, right? So that's pretty wild stuff. All that to be said, there's some real dangerous ties. We talked about Ben Berkwan reporting at the Capitol, also reporting at the border. Let's pull up this topic number 10. I think you guys are going to be shocked to see this one. This one's really wild. And actually, as you're pulling that up, before you do, let me go full screen for me. Let me just plug this because it's actually been getting a lot of traction. Folks, you're seeing that I'm wearing the Suspendables pin. You can visit my friend Garrett O'Boyle's store. He was on our show yesterday, the-suspendables.com. He's been working his butt off. He said you guys had another bunch of orders come in, so he's now back behind the 8-ball and printing shirts and packaging them up and sending them off, which is great. We're giving him something to do. Since he's not going to be able to do the good work of vetting bad guys, we might as well put him to work making a penny for his family. So go to the-suspendables.com. Use promo code Kyle, which gets you 10% off. Again, my promo code always the same, KYLE. 10% off at the-suspendables.com. Check out something. If you want to do, again, the merch pin bundle, you can do that. Like I'm wearing here on my jacket. You see Owen Schroyer wearing it. We're going to be giving some other people some of these pins, and many of you have bought them, I think, to the fact where they've been sold out, and he's got another order about to be delivered because we actually ordered a bunch more of them. So you'll get the Suspendables pin. You can add 3 to your cart. You're going to see it knocks it down to $30, and it's free shipping. So if you just want to straight up throw $30 at Garrett, these are a kind of a good little reminder, and they're easy to hand out, and you can hand them out to somebody that you know and love that's doing the right thing. We'll actually show somebody at the end of the show who I think has some pretty suspendable qualities. I keep running into more and more of you that are like that. And I know you're out there, so we know that we're not alone in this. All right, let's pull up that topic number 10. This comes from Borderland Beats. This is kind of an off-the-beat path. It's kind of an offbeat news source, but I think you guys can see how dangerous this is. Now, this news article, there it is, sorry. The news article says Hamas and the Chapitos, there's a connection between the Sinaloa cartels and the Palestinian terrorists. And what would that be? What would the natural outgrowth be? I'm going to summarize the article mostly for you. They're quoting a former Israeli military source who has done a number of interrogations with Hamas terrorists that they've captured. And one of the ways that Hamas has historically been able to penetrate into Israel and cause all kinds of shenanigans and problems is they dig tunnels, and they're very, very good at it. That $100 million goes into buying rockets, hiding munitions, and building tunnels that go in. Now, there's some challenges when you build a tunnel underneath barricades like the Israelis have. They've got a physical barrier of a wall, and they also have that extend down into the ground with foundations between concrete and steel, trying to keep people from coming into the country in a way that they're not able to vet. That makes perfect sense. Having a strong border would actually make you a stronger country in a place where you're surrounded by threats. I don't know. Maybe the United States should take some things. Either hippos in the Rio Grande or make a border wall. All these are good ideas. Now, the interesting connection between Sinaloa and Hamas is that they are finding out that a lot of the money that it takes to support these digging operations are coming from Sinaloa. They're giving the money and drugs, and they're selling the drugs either in Lebanon and Egypt, is the reporting here, promoting drug trafficking in the Middle East. That's Sinaloa's end of it. So there's cash coming in. Sinaloa basically expands their market. But the value to Sinaloa is that they're able to take some of the tunnel building technologies. They take the tunnel building technologies and they apply them to the American border. Now, there are rumors of massive tunnels. Some of them are real, some of them are fantasies, but the Border Patrol is always trying to sniff out tunnels. There are stories of tunnels going as long as 5 miles, and I know that because I worked as a federal agent along the border. We had stories that they were looking into. Hey, are these possible? Are they starting somewhere in a warehouse system in Mexico? Are they running multiple miles underground to an airstrip, to a hangar, to another warehouse complex on the U.S. side of the border where you can avoid all the checkpoints and then you could smuggle anything you want? Drugs, people, munitions, explosives, all kinds of dangerous possibilities exist once you have the ability to move in a good tunnel system. And if you are a tunnel builder working for Sinaloa, working for any of the other cartels in Mexico, wouldn't it make sense that you would try to conscript the capabilities of some of the most capable and motivated tunnel builders in the world, which is Hamas? This stuff is really scary. If you guys like this stuff, by the way, hit the like button. I see all of you are out there already saying that in the live chat. I appreciate it. Eric Jason moderating it and throwing these things up. So hit the live chat if you're just joining us now and you haven't, or hit the thumbs up rather on Rumble. Make sure it turns green. This is the kind of reporting that's out there in the world, but it's almost impossible to track all of these threats at the same time. It's kind of why we do it. It's kind of what we're talking about here. And one of the things that I know for a fact is that I've talked to the guys from Borderland Beats. The people that are doing this type of reporting are very good. They're only focused on the border. They speak multiple languages and they are getting interviews that you're not seeing anywhere else. I don't see that connection being drawn everywhere else, that is one of the major problems. The idea that you have a serious enemy of the United States, which the Sinaloa cartel is, and serious candidates are now talking about designating them as a foreign terrorist organization. Some of the ways you would do that are the actual links between already designated foreign terrorist operations, like Hamas. It's an FTO. It's listed by the State Department as a foreign terrorist organization. And there's no reason why you shouldn't think that connection, Sinaloa and Hamas, is not a problem as an American citizen. And it is one of the things that should be scary about the border. They're already trying to overcome our defenses. Are they ready for hippos? Probably not. Can we put hippos in the tunnels? Maybe so. All I'm saying is we need to be looking at our border. We don't need to be throwing $100 million at people who are already getting money from terrorists that are killing our citizens with fentanyl poisoning and others, that are working with the Chinese Communist Party to bring in the precursors to that, all of the people that are aligned against the United States tend to find each other in the night, and they all tend to work against it. And that is not a false equivalence. When you find that the Chinese government, which is working with the Russian government, which is working with Sinaloa cartel, which is working with Hamas, when you start drawing the lines here, what you see is a very big real threat picture. And the opportunity cost of missing that is being paid because we are looking at J6ers and possibly at people that were doing a drumbeat circle in the middle of the Cannon building yesterday. There's an incredible amount of danger by us taking our eyes off the ball. We cannot do it as a country and survive. It's a major danger, and it's an ongoing problem. Now, the other problem is what's going on at home. I'm going to wrap you guys up with what I think is probably a little bit of good news. Before we do that, let me just say this. The Biden administration is trying to get us into this war. They are trying to move us forward. I will give you the evidence really quickly. Did we pull up some of that? Yeah, we did. We got a couple of these things. Naval escalation, topic number 3. Pull that up if you would. The Eisenhower Carrier Group is actually going in to be the second carrier group now. The Ford Carrier Strike Group is there as well. We're putting 2 aircraft carrier strike groups down there in the Mediterranean capable of striking in that area. That doesn't seem like a good thing. The second thing is that tells me that we're escalating, and this came in, George Hill called my attention to this. They've moved the Mount Whitney, the USS Mount Whitney, which is a command and control vessel. That's going to be topic number 4, Ryan, if you want to just throw this up. All this coming from Navy Times, so this is all pretty reputable. We're seeing that they are moving something from the US 6th Fleet. It's their major command and control vessel, and it's capable of doing a lot. You're missing it. This is topic 4, sorry. Throw that up on the screen. It doesn't make too much difference.
I
but
had
you're
this
adding
as topic 4, my bad. So give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. So what we're talking about is that they're putting this command and control vessel into the area. Why would you do that when you already have 2 carrier groups? You don't need it unless you are trying to command a larger battle space. And I'm going to read you a direct quote of what they say about this particular piece. It adds massive abilities of throughput for data, and it is a sophisticated command, control, communications, and intelligence capabilities vessel that is only really put in when you start wanting to have a commander in direct air, ground, and maritime unit contact from a single location and process and move huge amounts of data that they can move back to a situation room. It is, generally speaking, not going to be a good sign that we are de-escalating tensions there. In fact, it looks like we are escalating, and we are standing there in support of potential future operations there. Now, while Congress is out of session, my other reason why I love it, why I love no one for speaker, we're not going to be able to do a declaration of war. We're going to have this unilateral movement, and that unilateral movement is going to fall 100% on the Biden administration for what they're doing. For me, that seems like sort of a win. I think we should be talking about it better. And the last thing that actually concerns me, topic number 5, see the one you were just showing about the naval enlistment. Topic number 5 makes me very uncomfortable because the Navy is not able to recruit, just like the rest of the military. And so I saw this in here, and I just wanted to throw it in as another piece. We are not sending our boys and girls, our young men and women into the military. Our parents are not recommending it. A lot of us veterans are not saying you can serve in the military. We don't want to see our kids go into this. And the Navy has been responding by basically upping the amount of retention attempts. They're putting money in their pockets to the tune of like $800 extra a month, which is actually pretty nice. It's what is that? That actually equals like $300 a month in the pre-Biden economy, but $800 a month, maybe that offsets some of the costs. They're trying to do massive retention of all of the sailors inside the Navy because they can't recruit, because people are looking at this and saying, I don't want to support this kind of thing. And one of the other things they're doing, which is the exact same thing the FBI is doing, it's worth noting, is that they've actually kicked off, they said they announced in February they would knock off the physical fitness assessment failures as a way to keep people. In other words, if you are failing your physical fitness abilities, which we generally assume that people in the military have to maintain, and if you don't maintain it, you're not going to be eligible for re-enlistment, they've waived it in order to keep their retention numbers up. And of course, they've managed to keep people that probably shouldn't be in the military in the first place. You're getting less fit, less capable people remaining, the people that we would all call SHIT bags that we don't want to work with. The guys that are sloppy and soft bodies are getting to stick around even though they can't meet the standards because we're changing and lowering the standards. It's another reason why Kamala Harris is sitting in the White House. Lowered standards, DEI, all these things make us less safe, and they're actually really bad for those troops that actually did meet the standard that are going to be backed up by somebody who doesn't. That's all scary stuff to me. I don't want to see any of it. Like I said, there is a little bit of good news on the horizon. And as you guys are waking up, and as more of your friends and neighbors are waking up and are realizing, we talked about it when I first launched this podcast. Today is the day. If you haven't set your feet in stone and say, I will not backpedal behind any line, You got to do it now. There's a woman that we have a video that just looks like it just was launched a couple days ago. I just saw it on social. This is from Wells Fargo in Tennessee. She's an attorney, apparently. We're going to start this about half a minute or so into it. This woman is basically saying, I want to deposit my cash in the bank. And she's being turned away. If any of you have been into a branch office of any bank right now, they're all wearing masks. They're hiring these idiot leftist children that are under the age of 30. They're scared of their own shadow. They are the people that don't understand science. And they are the ones trying to tell you how to move your money. This is a Wells Fargo. If you're already doing business with Wells Fargo, it's been a crap bank for a long time. They've been lousy on freedom for quite a long time. So let's go ahead and show this. This is one woman who just refuses. She gets an A+ for the approach. She gets an A+ for stamina. She gets a C- for not sticking the landing because she didn't demand them give her money back. But let's go ahead and listen to what she had to say about masking and whether she was going to wear it or not. Go ahead and roll that video, Ryan.
Fine as well.
Okay, then go get my money.
I can do that, ma'am, through the drive-through.
You're not going to put $200,000
Okay,
through the
just for one
drive-through.
moment, because we are bringing security over here.
Okay, sure.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. So my understanding is that the bank has a policy for masks. Are you just trying to attend to one of your accounts here?
Yes.
Okay. They are willing to help you through the drive-through if you don't want to wear a mask in the business.
Hold on. Why are you here? Is there a law that's been broken?
This is the question.
Well, if their policy here is that you have to wear a mask.
Is there a law that's being broken?
Well, if they're asking you to leave, then because you're not adhering to their...
It's open to the public, and
She's not answering the question.
Over $200,000 in the bank here for over 25 years. So I gave them an option. I said, I'll be happy to leave if they'll walk over there to the safe, pull all my money out, and give it to me. There are banks who want my business. So if they'll just pull it all out, I'll happily leave. But if I'm not breaking the law, I don't really need you here.
Well, why don't you come step outside with me? We'll talk about it, but this is not a public property. This is a business.
It's
and
open to the public.
If they ask you to wear a mask inside, you have to adhere to those guidelines. And if they ask you to leave because you're not adhering to those guidelines that they've set, then you have to leave.
Okay, tell me what that law is. I'm a lawyer, so tell me what that law is.
Okay. Would you like me to call a supervisor here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Do you want to step outside with me and not?
No, go ahead and call him because I want to know what the law is because Tennessee does not have a mask mandate. Listen to me. This is a business.
I'm listening, ma'am, and I understand. I understand what you're saying, but
listen.
This business can set their own guidelines as well.
But they are operating. They are registered with the Secretary of State to operate a business in the state of Tennessee, and they are open to the public of the state of Tennessee that does not have a mask mandate.
Okay.
So if they don't want, it's fine. If they don't want me as a customer, there's nobody else in there. We can stay 6 feet apart.
That's probably good right there.
Go get my money.
Ma'am, I understand what you're saying as well.
She says, go get my money. Now, this ends with the manager coming out and saying, oh, I'm so sorry. I was dealing with another customer. Let me help you. Let me get you. Let me do this deposit. And she accepts that as an acceptable answer. You just spent 8 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes of your time arguing. They called the police on you at a bank where you have $200,000 in, which, by the way, that's a lot of money, but it's not that much money for a bank. And the fact that they can't say, hey, we're going to stroke you out a cashier's check, we're going to cash you out right now, or we're going to hand you your cash right now because you're a problem, we don't want you as a customer. They've already told you they don't want you as a customer. Folks, when these banks, when these businesses tell you who they are, believe them. I need you to. We cannot accept this BS tyranny again. And the fact that this cop comes in, who sounds like she's from the Northwest, she sounds like she's from Garrett O'Boyle's part of the world. She comes in Tennessee and she's trying to argue. You notice she doesn't have any answer. She doesn't know anything. She is a complier. She is wearing a mask that is made of cloth, like all the idiots in that bank. If you are so foolish in 2023, at the end of this year, as we walk into the 2024 election season, that you think a paper mask or you think that wearing a cloth over your face protects you from anything other than it makes you a better bank robber, you're a moron right now. You should stop listening to this program. You should go out and get help. And I'm going to give you the simple evidence that all you need. The particles that are in the fecal matter of a flatulent expelling from your rear end make it through underwear and jeans into your nose. That tells you everything you need to know about something like a virus that is so much smaller. These idiots have obviously never smelled a fart in an elevator. If you haven't figured it out, it's time to stop. We need to call them out. We need to not be doing business with these places. If you go into a grocery store and they have a mask policy, leave. Go somewhere else. They don't want your money. whatever that takes. If it means you need to order it online, you need to stop. We need to put these people out of business. And Wells Fargo is far too big. They think they're going to get bailed out by being idiots, by being bad to their customers. Pull all of your money, do a bank run on them if you have to in your neighborhood, and shut them down. But I continue to see it. I'm actually going to pull my money out of Chase too. Chase, you're on warning. I'm already going to go. I'm sick of seeing people wear masks. The only upside is my personal banker that I deal with for our business is not a mask-wearing idiot. She actually seems to be like she's working in the wrong profession and she hates her life. So if you're going to go in there and you're going to be surrounded by morons that are scared of you and scared of everything going on, when they should be scared of people that wear masks that come into banks. Think about 3 years ago in your life. If you rolled into a bank with a mask on, they would have kicked your ass out the door. You cannot go into a bank with a mask on, ever, until right now. And now they're all wearing them because they're dumb. So take your money out. Somebody mentioned good Germans in the chat. That's exactly right. I've been calling them good Americans. If you don't know what that looks like, these are people that comply because it's a rule. They're probably the same people that pay a bill because it came in the mail, but they don't know what it is. Don't be someone that doesn't ask questions. And when somebody doesn't have the answers to your question and the answer is, can I call a supervisor for you? Number one, yes. Number two, you already won. They have no standing to be there. So don't back down from these people, including cops who should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. Shame on you if you're a police officer and you're doing the bidding of a private company that has no grounds. They can't deal with their own customer service dispute. Know what the law is before you go in and try and enforce it. If they don't know the law, and that's the great question that woman asked, ask what the law is. If the answer is you want to call a supervisor, no, I want you to tell me what the law is. Hammer it until they tell you they don't know. And then the question is, what are you doing here? I pay your salary. I live in the city. Why do you exist? You exist to go find crime, to enforce law. You're not enforcing law. You're bothering me. Go away. Good for her. Good for this woman. And pull your money out if somebody has an interaction like that. I don't care where you are because it's awful and it's stupid. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's about the downside and the upside at the end of the day here. We're streaming live from Liberty Hill, Texas. We appreciate all of you that have joined us in the live chat. I see we've cleared 1,300. So make sure you have hit that like button as you guys leave. You can join us every morning, 0930. We are here streaming from Liberty Hill, Texas. 0930 Eastern time. And we want to say thanks for all of you that have been making it legit. I've been watching the chat just like fly past me. It's faster than I can keep up with, so I do appreciate you guys being there. We also always read a 5-star review. If you want to keep this show growing, you can do so on Apple, on Spotify, iHeartRadio. There's specific a link to the Apple comment section where you can leave us a 5-star review like Miss Laura Lynn did a couple days ago. This one is entitled Out of the Park, 5 stars. Steve Baker is unbelievable and my favorite. Your first interview with him changed my life perspective. Now, that's kind of intense. I'm glad he stayed with the January 6th incident. Thank you again, Kyle, for what you do. Laura C. P.S. The real Steve Friend is awesome too. Yes, the real Steve Friend is awesome too. And as fate would have it, he will be here tomorrow for Friendly Friday. So make sure you tune in tomorrow for FBI whistleblower, author, and Center for Renewing America fellow Steve Friend on his regular guest spot that he shows up on and gives you whatever it is that is the bee in his bonnet for this week. I always look forward to it. We're going to be launching something with Steve. He's going to be doing his own thing with Garrett at some point real soon. It's a matter of, Garrett has a lot of obligations to his church, folks. So that's what we're working around. But we are going to get you another live show here on the same channel, and you guys will be able to enjoy that soon. We appreciate it. Make sure you're following Ryan Matta Media on Twitter, Ryan Matta on True Social, and follow our friend Eric Jason, our chat moderator and the founder of the Suspendables group on True Social. It's at Eric Jason. Very easy. God bless you all. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you again tomorrow for Friendly Friday.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, True Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.